And today I will present you our Cisco Secure Access solution. Okay? So please do not hesitate to interrupt me if you have any question, if you have any remark. I will try to answer it live or get back to you later. Okay? So with the COVID period, with the evolution of our data center, with public clouds, with applications deployed on multiple sites, with people or employees working from multiple sites, with partners, with customers, with providers. So we see, I will say, more and more endpoints connected to our applications. We see more and more people or employees trying to connect to the internet from home, and we needed to protect both our employees, our endpoints, managed or unmanaged endpoints, and most important thing, to protect our data. When the data is transmitted across, I will say, the public network, when the customer or where the end user is trying to connect, and with I will say the growing needs of connecting to our data, especially the sensitive data, we see that at a certain period of time, the only way to protect this data were the encryption via VPN tunnels. Okay, the issue with VPN tunnels, it consumes a lot of resources on the VPN gateway. It's not always, I will say, easy to implement. It does not provide, I will say, it consumes times because of encryption and decryption, and we try to find a new way to protect our end users trying to connect both to the internet and to our data deployed on public or private clouds. And from, I would say, perspective, we took the Cisco umbrella solution. So the Cisco umbrella solution is our DNS, domain name service protection, and we implemented new features. And the Cisco Secure Access solution is the evolution of the Cisco umbrella solution, where we can protect end users and endpoints connected everywhere around the world and trying to connect to both the internet for, I will say, the web protection, for the domain protection, and we also added another bricks to protect our private data, private applications, because with Cisco umbrella we protected only the web part. So we added a new level of security to protect also the access to our private applications and private data. Okay, so when it comes to the Cisco Secure Access solution, we provide, as I said, features available in the Cisco umbrella solution. For example, the web gateway, where we have the possibility to filter, to block, to manage, to permit access to websites based on categories, based on reputation. We also protect the end user from accessing malicious websites. We also, for example, provide DNS protection, where we can check if an unknown website is malicious or not. So we added then new features to provide our customers with a higher level of security. For example, we are working on the DLP, the data loss protection, with also DLP for known identifiers, and we worked also on AI, artificial intelligence guardrails, where we are trying to protect our employees who are using AI, more and more AI for their daily work. With IMP, with advanced malware protection, we are trying to check if any exchanged endpoint, so sent or received, is malicious or not. And we can also support sandboxing functionalities where we can send the hash of an unknown file to a sandbox to check if when we run this file or when we open this file, there is any malicious behavior behind, there is any executables, any tunnels opened. So we check what is the behavior of this file, or does it involve any other executables or programs. So we try to provide our customers with more features to protect both the internet access and, of course, the private access. So all of this will be totally transparent for the end user. So the aim of the secure access is to provide our end users with access to all, I will say, the applications, data, websites, internet, without the need to constantly, for example, authenticate, establish tunnel, then disconnect from this tunnel, re-authenticate another time, use another, for example, connectivity. So with the secure access, our end user needs to authenticate once, and then the plumbery between the end user and all the needed, I will say, data, resources, application, all the plumbery is done by the secure access solution. When our end users tries to connect to specific applications, secure access, based on the policies and rules we created, knows if we have to go through a VPN or if we have some specific policies to apply. If our customer wants to go to the internet, what are the access control lists used for this internet? So we don't need to establish every time or to re-establish or disconnect from a specific remote access, for example, VPN tunnel, or establish another connection. All the plumbery is done by the secure access based on, I will say, the configuration our solution administrator is doing. So a single point of management, of administration of the entire solution with both the internet access and the private access. We have a unified administration where we can create all our policies or our rules to manage both the internet access and the private access with all the features provided by the solution. For example, with the firewalling part, with the IPS part, with the DLP part, with the malware protection. All of this is provided from a single, I will say, management console with all the features available to protect our end users when they are trying to connect to both the internet access or the private access. Okay. So from the end user perspective, it will just be an agent, a lightweight agent, deployed on the PC or on the laptop or on the endpoint that is part of the secure client suite. So traditionally, we have the VPN, the AnyConnect, our remote access client-to-site VPN client. And we now developed an entire suite of agents that can be enabled and installed on our end users or employees' PCs or laptops to initiate or to benefit from the feature. And the AnyConnect here will be part of the suite. And for example, we have other agents such as the secure endpoint for example, the IMP, the advanced malware protection for endpoints. We can have the umbrella also module for the DNS protection. So it will be a combination of agent, okay, that will enable the features or the needed feature on the endpoint itself. Okay. So when the customer or when the employee try to connect to the internet or to a private application or resource, there is different way to, I will say, check or analyze the traffic, retrieve the traffic, and each, I will say, method provides, I will say, the customer or the employees with different way to protect data, to protect the endpoint. We can, for example, provide authentication to check if the end user is the right person. We can do posturing, for example, with endpoint compliance, check if the endpoint is compliant to our security policy, if he has, for example, the latest updates, if the firewall, for example, is enabled or not, if he has, for example, the latest OS version, if he has, for example, the latest database for the antivirus. So we can do the endpoint posturing before granting access to our resources. If the endpoint is compliant, we can grant access to our sensitive data. If he is not, we can redirect, for example, the endpoint, ask the end user to do the remediation to update or to update the endpoint before granting access. Okay, so when we speak about posturing, so we support different, I will say, method of posturing. Of course, there is different, I will say, way or different level of posturing based on the connection, I will say, method that will permit us do more or less checks with the VPN as a service way, offering more capabilities to check more, I will say, the endpoints used by the end user. And of course, we support the ZTA browser where we don't need to install, for example, any agent. It can be, for example, for partners, it can be for auditors to check if the operating system, for example, or the browser are compliant to our policies. Okay, so when an end user try to connect to our private applications, sorry, do you have question, guys, please, before I go ahead? Is it clear till now? All good?
Yeah, carry my behavior good.
Sorry, do you have any question, please? Can you hear me well? Okay. Okay. If you have any question, please do not hesitate to interrupt me, okay? So when our end users tries to access private applications, so they are connected remotely from home, from coffee, from perhaps branches that are not secured. So we can use the Cisco Secure Access to establish, I will say, a high level of security with, for example, DLP, with predefined, for example, identifiers for sensitive data, can be, for example, detecting bank account, detecting social numbers, detecting ID card numbers. And we also support custom identifiers where the administrator can create his own identifiers for example, some sensitive data. We can use the intrusion detection features to check if there is any unwanted, for example, trial access. The firewalling part to manage, to create rules, to manage, for example, access based on ports, based on services. And of course, all this is to protect the data, I would say, accessed by the end user, to check if the end user and the endpoint are compliant to our security policy, if the endpoint, for example, has the needed requirements to access, for example, the sensitive data. So when it comes to the internet access, so we can do, for example, there are some common features, for example, the intrusion, also the firewalling, but we can also add other features such as the secure web gateway, where we manage our end users' access to the internet based on website categories, based on the reputation of the websites, and we manage this access to protect also our data. We also provide security for our cloud application service providers, broker. So the secure access is a combination of two modules: the secure private access, where we are trying to protect access to our private applications, and known as the SPA, the secure private access, and then the other module, the secure internet access, the SIA, where we are trying to protect our end user, our endpoint, when they are trying to connect to the internet. So this is the major differentiator between the secure access and the Cisco umbrella solution, where we have just the internet access protection. Okay, so from I will say an end user, sorry, from an end user, I will say point of view, the solution or all this is totally transparent for the end user. So he is trying to connect to the internet, or he is trying to connect to private applications. The secure access solution will redirect the traffic in a very transparent way for our end user to access both the internet and the private application. He doesn't need, for example, to establish the VPN tunnel for the private application, then disconnect. So it's totally transparent for the end user. We just need to configure the solution to handle or to manage this access to both the private application and the internet side. Okay. We also support, of course, the clientless access, okay, to our private applications, where, for example, we can permit our employees, for example, to use their personal devices to access our private application with a BOAD, bring your own device feature. We can also use this clientless zero trust access for unmanaged devices, for example, where we have, for example, partners or customers trying to access to our private application, where we can do some zero trust access, some posturing on the endpoint based on the browser that can support RDP and SSH. Okay. We can also integrate with our Cisco ISE Identity Services Engine, our NAC, our Network Access Control solution, where we can use the SGT, the security group tag on the ISE, or retrieve it from the Cisco ISE or the Cisco ISE solution to create policies, okay? To create policies to manage access, our end users' access to our, for example, private applications. So, for example, we can create group tags, for example, the HR team, the finance team, the R&D team, and we can create SGTs for all this group or organization of users that needs the same application or resources. We can create groups. So it's a way for, I will say, a new way of segmentation. We don't need to create VLANs on switches and replicate them. We just need to create SGTs on the ISE solution to provide access to applications or sensitive data for a group of persons that are that needs the same access. For example, the HR team, for example, will access the same application and same data. We can create an SGT for this HR team, and we can share or retrieve this SGT definition from the secure access perspective, and we can use these SGTs to, I will say, enhance the security level of our end users trying to access our applications remotely. From an AI perspective, so we see more and more, I will say, people using AI in their daily job, but honestly, they don't know, not all of them know what is the risk behind using AI, I will say, applications. They don't know if they are sharing sensitive data or not, if the data they are sharing is used after, if the information they receive is malicious or not, is harmful or not. So we need here to protect our company, our organization, our end user from this new generation of applications, and we need to protect them from a privacy, from a security, privacy, and safety perspective. We need to check if they are sharing, for example, sensitive data, if they are, for example, receiving, for example, malicious or, for example, threats as a response. We need to check if they are, for example, receiving harmful information. So what we can do here with Secure Access is we can manage up to 1,200 GenAI applications. We can manage access. We can manage what they are sharing as an end users. If we permit them to share information, to share data with this GenAI application, if we permit our end users to receive information, because when we share with the GenAI applications, you are waiting for an answer. So this answer can hide, for example, an injection, can hide a malicious code. So we need to check if what you are receiving as an employee is malicious or not. We can also work on the privacy part to check if our end users are sharing some sensitive data. Perhaps they are not aware, perhaps they don't know what is sensitive information, and we need to protect them. And finally, with the safety perspective of point of view of the AI guardrails, we have, I will say, some categorization of information or answers we want to block before our end users or employee receive such kind of answer. Any question, please, guys? Okay, so this is how it works. For example, with our AI guardrails, with the secure access. So we are trying to protect our end users or our data when they are sharing information, okay, and when they are receiving answers. So in both directions, the AI guardrails protect our end users or our employees and our data in both ways when they integrate with the GenAI or the AI applications. Okay. So with the SIA, the Secure Internet Access module, we are trying. So as I said, there are two separate modules in the Secure Access solution: the SPA, the Secure Private Access, and the SIA, the Secure Internet Access. They are totally independent. You can consider one of them, or of course both of them, and they provide different features to protect our end users, our endpoints, and our data, and especially the sensitive data. So we can, for example, for the case of the SIA, benefit from the firewalling part, the intrusion part, the DLP part, where we have predefined and customized identifiers for sensitive data, the malware protection. Okay. So different way to protect. We have the remote access VPN when it's the agent under the secure client suite. Okay. And we have also another way is the umbrella module. If you have still umbrella, if you want to migrate, of course, one thing important, I will show you it later. Okay. If we have customers that are running today Cisco umbrella solution as a DNS solution, we can of course migrate this deployment from umbrella to secure access. Okay. And we have a free tool that can migrate our customer policies from umbrella to secure access. Of course, from umbrella to secure access, SIA, the secure internet access part. Okay. So from a troubleshooting perspective, when it comes to secure access, we provide our customer or the solution administrator with a full visibility on what is going on if there is any issue with connectivity, if there is any security, I will say threats, if there is any flag, if there is any intrusion, if there is any indication of compromise. And this is, of course, provided by the secure access solution or from a monitoring perspective. Okay. So as I said, if we have customers running umbrella solution, we can migrate their deployment. We can use the free upgrade manager and have two instances. We have the umbrella and the secure access instances running in parallel simultaneously to see if the migration was successfully done with all the policies migrated from the umbrella to the secure access part. This is the secure access interface. So with all our Cisco security solution, visibility is very important. So even with solutions such as firewalling, secure access, ICE, network management, visibility is always a must-have. You need to see what is going on your network, on your devices, on your endpoints, to see if there is any unwanted traffic, any malicious activity, and then use this visibility to enhance your policies, to enhance your rules. So with secure access, you have a full or detailed visibility on what is going on from internet access, of course, of end users, of our end users, and also from private access resources. For example, here, so it's a VM running on our G-Cloud environment with visibility. So it's generated just is read-only access and with some visibility on what is going on. So for example, here you have visibility on, for example, 24 hours, 7 or 30 days, or you can get your custom range. Here you have security activity. For example, here you have categorization of what the solution saw from malware perspective, from CNC blocks, from crypto mining, phishing blocks. When it comes to IMP, so the file retrospective, when we try to see if there is any malicious file exchanged, received, or sent. So unfortunately, there is no information here. So all of this can be used, okay, to see what is going on your network, on your devices with your end users. And if there is any unwanted traffic, okay, we can enhance the security level and go back. Okay. So when it comes to configuring the solution, we can use the workflows. So with the workflows, you can follow step by step all all the steps or all the requirements. So you don't need, you just need to follow the steps, okay? And you will have a full configuration. And these steps, of course, are available here, okay? So if you want to use this, or you want to do this. So for example, the network connections, okay? As Cisco umbrella solution, we will need, for example, to create our networks. We will need to create our devices that will connect our networks to the Secure Access Cloud. We can define our end users. We can retrieve, for example, end user definition from end users identity sources. So for example, here you have the internal networks when you can create your networks you want to protect. So for example, from SPA, so secure private access, or from the end user's access trying to connect to the internet, okay? Then we can create, for example, the network devices that can, for example, be a router or a firewall that will redirect, for example, all the DNS requests from our network to secure access cloud to check if there is any unwanted activity, to apply the policies we created. Okay? Then we have the policy part when, for example, we can have here a visibility on all the rules and policies we have created. Okay? And policy creation is very easy. You just need to add a rule. Okay? When you try to correct a rule, you just need to specify if it's a rule for the private access to our private resources, or if it's an internet access, for example. Okay, so for example, if we go with the private access, okay, so you need to add a name, for example, to the rule to know it. You can, as a firewall, you can position it, for example, here, for example, okay, in the rule 3, you can add a description, you can permit or block as a rule. Okay, here you can specify the destination and the source, and you can see here that we can integrate with end users identity sources, for example, ADs. We can also retrieve SGT, as I said, with integration with our Cisco ISNAC solution. Okay, so for example, we can select our developers. Here you have, for example, AD users from Active Directory. We can click here and go back to our sources. Okay, so also here to the destination as private access. For example, you have our private resources where we created, okay, our private access we want to protect, and we have here the different way to access this specific data. Okay, so for example, for this file server, we can access it from the ZTNA client-based method, from the branch enablement and the VPN enablement. Okay, so every single destination here has its own connectivity way. Okay, so we can use, of course, the scheduler to permit access for a specific period of time, for a specific time range. Okay, and you continue to manage and to enable the features one by one for this specific role. Let me cancel this and show you the internet access. So it's the same thing. Okay, you have to add a name, a description, also allow, block, or warm, but you want to allow the access. And we have here the isolate feature, where it's sandboxing for internet access. So the RBA is the remote browser isolation. It's a feature that permit to, I will say, run or to visit the website if it's an unknown site, and check if there is any malicious activity or any malicious information sent or received before granting access to the end user. So it's a way of sandboxing internet access. And same thing, you have the list of all the sources or the destination you created. Okay, so destinations here are not the same as the private access rules because private access rules is for private applications. Here is more about internet. So it can be categories of internet, it can be specific websites, can be a group of sites. Okay, so a different way. Of course, you have the scheduler and you can continue to manage. Okay, so with DLP, we have predefined. Let me a few seconds, please, to load. So here, for example, you have the DLP. I cannot add. Okay, the DLP part and the AI guardrails. We talk about it for to protect. I cannot use it. So it's a read-only, unfortunately, VM, and some buttons are grayed. We cannot use them, so I cannot work on this. So, for example, here I cannot open it. I cannot. Sorry, guys. So here you can create policies to protect, for example, end users from sharing malicious or sensitive data. You can here create your own, for example, policies to protect your end users from the security, safety, and privacy point of view we saw in the slides to block them when they try to share, for example, sensitive data, when they, for example, when they are receiving some malicious code or injection, and of course, when they are receiving, for example, unwanted traffic, for example, that can be harmful, or for example, that can be unwanted. Okay. What else we can have? I don't know if we have access to the endpoint posturing. Okay, so here we can create the endpoint posturing profiles when we try to see if the endpoint is compliant, okay, to our policy before granting access to, for example, a private application. So, for example, if the endpoint has a secure operating system, if the browser is updated or not, so we can check this endpoint status before granting access. Okay, so when it comes to the monitoring, of course, we have a list of predefined dashboard. So with all the events, with the connectivities, with, for example, the activity volume, if you want to see if there is, for example, an end user generating a lot of traffic, if they are sharing, for example, a lot of files. So what else? Top destinations, top categories. So it's all predefined dashboards that you can use to see if there is any unwanted or malicious activity. Okay, so all this configuration with the secure part and the resource part is available here. Okay, so in the workflows part to help you easily configure and enjoy the solution.